is burnout inescapable and pervasive regardless of your career. Content creators get burnt out and it's a never-ending treadmill and you have to stay consistent. But at the same time, even though it's an open secret, some people never quite believe it, especially if they're dreaming of it as an escape from their corporate grind. They just think that we're exaggerating, that it can't be as bad as it is. This is a really tough video for me to make, and there's a couple of reasons why. But I wanted to be real with y'all. And the fact that this video is so hard to make told me I probably should. I've been on the road with my partner for about a year now, full-time traveling. And some of y'all know that even prior to being on the road, I had a large social media presence. I have a bunch of different platforms I run. I'm an author with 7 books out. I have a side business I run with some friends. I'm busy, and about a year ago I got into YouTube. Started making videos because we were on the road and I wanted to document that. So I was already pretty busy before I started YouTubing and before we started traveling full time. I love the work I do with my business and I really like YouTube work, even though it's been really tough. Learning video editing was not easy. I learned something new and humbling about filmmaking every day, and pretty much a mistake that I'm making if I'm being honest. It's fulfilling work, but it's been very exhausting. Anyway, after about a year of pretty much full-out straight travel, my partner and I have come back to the Pacific Northwest, which was one of the first places we went. We're planning on spending the summer here and slowing down and really enjoying Oregon, especially this summer. And I'm really excited about that because I am very tired. Traveling full-time for a year has been wonderful, but the pace can be punishing and I need a little bit of a break. I do. Anyway, I'm here in Bend, Oregon as I'm recording this, and Bend is beautiful and it feels wonderful and frankly like home, like a lot of Oregon has whenever we visited. The people are great. The scenery is beautiful. I actually cried when we saw the Cascades when I got here. And my partner kind of laughed in you know, a very friendly way. I'm an emotional person, I'm sensitive. He loves that about me. We're both emotional, sensitive, wholesome people, to be honest. We went out shopping for some supplies when we got here because we had just been in the Oregon desert for a week. We were low on supplies. We were just running around at like Whole Foods and Costco and all the big city stores. Really excited because you don't find those when you're out in the wilderness, which we've been for a little while. And I noticed when we were shopping that I was making a lot of impulse purchases. I was kind of grabbing things and putting them in the cart with a speed and an ease that is not normal for me. So something you don't know about me is that I am very easygoing, but I can also be very indecisive. And I tend to get up in my head and overthink a lot. So I'm like, oh, do I really want this? Is this good for me? Will I use it in time? I normally can't turn my executive function off. Essentially, I'm always comparing and contrasting at a level that would be exhausting for most people. It's just how I am. So I'm not one that's like, oh, I want this and I want this and I want this when I'm shopping. It's really hard for me. My husband Justin will have to say, oh, well, just use your lizard brain, just buy whatever. And it's still kind of tricky for me. I'm like, oh, I don't know, it costs too much. Do I really need this? I tend to overthink even the smallest of decisions. But it wasn't the case. When we came in, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was literally, there's some candy involved. I'm very decisive, very quick, but I'm also kind of not all there. I'm sort of ditzy and scatterbrained. I couldn't focus. I just was losing the plot. I was having trouble following the conversation Justin was having with me. I just wasn't meal planning as well as I normally do. And I'm the meal planner for the family. I'm the one that makes like a lot of lists, and I have these whole recipe troves on our family Google Drive that have all the recipes, how to make them, they're sorted. I'm very, very organized and methodical these days. It's how I've learned to be high functioning.
Relatively.
Especially with all I've got going on and to save money and various things. Anyway, I couldn't focus. We figured it might be jet lag. So that was Saturday. Sunday I wake up, I'm still not all there, and I made a tiny mistake. I run 14 social media brands at this point, and I posted something to the wrong account. I don't do that. I'm used to being able to do what I do and not get my wires crossed. I have methods and ways that I check and things like that. And then because I made the mistake, my audience on one of these brands was confused. And because people can be very mean online, they posted some really mean things and I took it very personally and I was sobbing. I usually don't. You have to have very tough skin working online, and I've worked on that, but boy, I lost it and I was sobbing and it took me hours to feel better. I tried to use the normal distraction methods where you go do something else and it wasn't working. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And my husband's like, I don't know. Could it be a hormonal thing? I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so, because it just doesn't feel the same. So, and I caved and I asked AI, literally, I asked ChatGPT. I wrote what had happened, my symptoms, as much as I could. Basically wrote a long essay about the situation and I said, what's going on? And it was like, oh, that's classic burnout. I was like, what? And it pointed out some facts that kind of were in the background. A month or so ago, I went from posting once a week on Our Moving Castle, my first channel, to posting twice a week because I wanted to make sure I could get the 4,000 watch hours so I could get monetized on time, because there's that 365-day limit for monetization, and I was feeling very stressed about the limit. I've never had a time limit before for traffic, like a certain amount of traffic over a certain amount of time. It was stressing me out. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be more stressed out short term so that long term I can relax, I can pace myself, I can do what I normally do.
Danger zone?
So I did that, which, it's a lot to begin with. That basically doubled the YouTube requirements on my main channel. And it didn't seem like a huge deal at the time because I had kind of broken through with video editing and filming and batching, and my process, because I'd gotten more organized, it became a lot easier to produce it. 2 videos a week was almost like 1 video a week used to be.
Sure, Jan.
Kinda, right? Kinda. That was bad enough. That was a big demand on my time. And then right about that time, I started thinking I wanted to do some videos like this on this channel, the Page Turner channel, where I could just be myself and share things and talk about frequently asked questions I get. Justin has suggested it, my husband. He thought it would be nice for me to not be constrained within Our Moving Castle, because I had started doing some videos on that channel that were a little bit more about me. He was like, well, why don't you just start a personal channel? Which sounded really good, and it's been good mostly. But here's the thing, it's another channel, it's more work. And even though Justin said, do lower effort videos, just do what you feel like, don't worry about it, you don't even have to do one every week, they can be sporadic. Something within me was like, yeah, but I know that in order to grow and develop something and to really give it the proper attention, that it's good to be consistent. So even though I was like, oh, sure, what did I do? I started doing a video a week. Yeah. So all of a sudden my 1 video a week was now 3 videos a week, and they were 2 different channels. So it's almost like 4 times as much YouTube on top of everything else at the end of a long travel season. And AI could see this clear as day. It was bad. So the first thing I did is I went and I sat outside for a while. It was during the middle of work day. I should have been working, but I just couldn't do it. I sat outside and I was just in nature, and I sort of sat there and I didn't have any restrictions on whether I could work or not. Like, it wasn't like, no, you cannot work. Because I find that sometimes when I do that, I work harder. I have this really weird relationship with work. But I sat and I talked to some of my friends about it, and it's really interesting. People were really supportive. I had been afraid that I was going to get some like, oh, well, how can you be burnt out? You're a content creator. And I've been there. I had a corporate manager's position before I did this. Because frankly, a lot of people, they dream about content creation as the escape from the grind. And they don't really necessarily realize how much work it is, that it is a real job, especially if you're doing it seriously. Film in general is very demanding. Writing was demanding. This is like writing and performing, and worrying about things like lighting is just, it's a completely different thing. And just the organization and the film editing curve is completely different. It's work. It's work. And I think that it's both an open secret that it's work and that content creators get burnt out and it's a never-ending treadmill and you have to stay consistent. But at the same time, I do think that even though it's an open secret, some people never quite believe it, especially if they're dreaming of it as an escape from their corporate grind. They just think that we're exaggerating, that it can't be as bad as it is. It's bad, but anyway, I reached out to my friends and they were all really supportive. I didn't get any of that, which I was glad to hear. I think part of it is that my friends are there with me on the everyday level. I'm always talking about what I've got going on. They know that I'm always working and that I have to stay on task, and that it's not me lying on my back gazing at the stars. That's not what is happening here, that I work hard. I will say I was really shocked that 2 of my friends were instantly like, yeah, me too. I'm burnt out at work. And they both have office jobs. I had a really complicated emotional reaction to them saying me too. It was a mix of good and bad, because like, yay, my friends understand, like it's good to be understood, but also bad because it's pervasive. That sucks. Just talking to 4 people, half of them are like, yes, I'm burnt out too. That's bad. Is burnout inescapable and pervasive regardless of your career? One of them said something that really stuck with me, and it hit me a lot harder than maybe it should have. What they said was, yeah, me too, but I can't take a break and you can. And I know they didn't mean it in a bad way. I even kind of was like, ooh, well, I feel kind of bad about that. I feel guilty. Like if I take a break, it's unfair because you can't. And they're like, oh, no, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it that way. But it kind of stuck with me. It was very hard. And I think that when you do have some flexibility, if you see that other people don't have as much, it can be very difficult, especially if you're like me. I'm very easily guilty. I had a Catholic upbringing, but also I'm very sensitive and very caring about other people. So I do feel bad when I have things that others don't. Even if I had to work for it, even if I have to sacrifice in different ways. Building a business was the most challenging thing I've ever done. It was much harder than a corporate job, but in a completely different way. It's like differently hard. I still feel guilty. Recovering from burnout, I looked at a lot of the advice about things you're supposed to do, like, oh, you should take a vacation. And it's hard because I have some things that I can take a vacation from or a break from because I'm ahead on that work. I tend to schedule work ahead on things that I can because I need that flexibility for things that can't wait. But there are literally things that I am point person on. I have no coverage, that are vulnerable, that are building right now. Like I said, I have some other business ventures. I have partners. It isn't like I just have one video a week and I can just not do it. I'm just saying I'm doing 3 videos a week, but that's like such a small part of what I do. Plus, I like to work.
Excuse me, what?
I know this is crazy, but it makes me happy to be productive and to be building something and to be expressing myself and getting things done. And it's very difficult when the poison is the thing you're living for, I guess, right? Oh.
You sound unhinged.
So it's not one of those things where you just quit cold turkey. It's not feasible. It's part of my identity, always has been. Even when I had a regular, straightforward job, I always really took a lot of pride in working and being productive and providing for my family. I think it's partly because my dad was my hero growing up, and he was the breadwinner and a stoic, and he always pushed forward. He worked hard. He was always pushing himself. He worked like 70-hour weeks when we were growing up, and he was a construction mechanical superintendent. So he was management, but he was in a blue-collar job, and he had to travel and work crazy hours, and mills had hazards. There were noises and things smelled, and it wasn't a namby-pamby little enterprise, right? I always felt really grateful for him and really proud of him, and I wanted to be a hard worker like my father. My father actually passed away during the pandemic 4 years ago, but he did live to see my books come out, to see my business. He was very, very proud of me, and I do feel like I am his daughter in a lot of ways, just in the way that I push myself and I work hard when nobody's forcing me to. And that was the thing about him, is he just knew he could do more, and he wanted to do more, and he wanted to do good things for people around him, which was us and his community. And he was working hard, but he was also, especially once he got into a semi-retirement state where he wasn't working 70 hours a week, he was, volunteering to help the church build additions and things like that. So he was a good guy. Even when he was retired, he stayed busy. He was on his iPad designing things and consulting for textbooks and all this stuff. He was always working. He was a constructive person, and I'm like that. I'm on a vacation and I'm reading books, like for pleasure, for edification. I'm on a vacation and I'm writing about the place or reviewing it or coming up with an idea for my next novel. Like, I am that person, and I think that's okay to be that person. So it's a very difficult thing when all the burnout advice tells you, you need to take a vacation, right? And I was talking to a friend about it, and I feel like the path away from burnout is difficult, because it's kind of like when you have binge eating disorder, let's say, for example. You can't just not eat again. It isn't like, okay, well, quit eating, you'll get better. You've got to find a moderation path, right? You got to find a way to eat more reasonably, or eat nutritiously, or intuitive eating, or something like that. So I have to figure out some way of intuitive working, because I can't stop working. I like to work. Sorry, I do. And I need to find a way to work and work hard without burning myself out. Yeah, so I think it's about using the flexibility that I have and thinking about all those little opportunities I have. I don't know what it looks like, to be honest. The first step was sitting outside, and I took most of the day off. Although, you'll laugh, I ended up basically learning a few things that I could use at work. It's like I kind of got bored. But mostly sitting outside and talking to friends. I think it'll be about sliding the bars down till I find a good balance. I don't think there are a lot of easy answers here. I'm here, I'm on this journey, I'm gonna figure it out, and I'll let you know what I find out. Thank you. Thank you for being here and letting me get that off my chest today. It's been great talking to you as always, and I'll see you in the next video.